Liv Morgan and Cody Rhodes are the first ever winners of the WWE Crown Jewel Championships. Liv Morgan defeated WWE Women's Champion Nia Jax at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia, thanks in large part to interference from her Judgment Day teammates. The match's finish saw Nia attempt to go for the Annihilator, but Dominic slid Tiffany's Money in the Bank briefcase into the ring, distracting the referee and allowing Raquel Rodriguez to knock off Nia Jax off the turnbuckle. Liv Morgan then hit the Oblivion and got the win. Triple H presented Liv with the Crown Jewel Championship after the match. As for Cody Rhodes, he defeated Gunther in the match that headlined the show. The finish saw Cody Rhodes reverse Gunther's sleeper hold into a pinning combination, similar to Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 8. Triple H announced at the kickoff show that the Crown Jewel Championship winners will receive a massive ring similar to what is awarded to champions in team sports. The title belts will remain on display in Saudi Arabia at the WWE Experience for fan attraction. Bill Goldberg will wrestle his final match in 2025. He announced the news yesterday while appearing on ESPN's SEC network, saying the news of the day is per 3 executives Nick Khan, Chris LeGentil, and Paul Levesque in 2025, Goldberg's having his retirement match. Clips of Goldberg's appearance at WWE Bad Blood in Atlanta last month, when he was involved in an altercation with Gunther, were also shown. Goldberg believes it's likely he'll face Gunther in his final match. Goldberg said, "I think we know who the subject or the victim, probably the frontrunner right now, we know who it is. But in 2025, Goldberg makes his return in a retirement match. I got a couple of months to get ready, no date, no time." Goldberg hasn't wrestled since losing to Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber 2022 in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Shortly after his appearance at Bad Blood, Triple H left the door open for his possible return to the company, saying the following.
Yeah, I can tell you, so, as you said, Atlanta loves Bill Goldberg, and that's why he was here tonight, right? He was with his wife and his son. Always going to get a huge reaction here, enjoying the show. Things get said. I can tell you that when Bill came back, he was not too happy with Gunther, and we'll see. We'll see. The further you go, time catches up with all of us, right? And so the further you go, those talks get further and further away from reality. But I don't know, I saw Bill earlier in the day, and it was great. And I saw Bill later in the day, and there was a different look on his face with a spark in his eyes. So I would say never.
On to our next story. In the new issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer provided an update on the Young Bucks following their AEW Tag Team title loss. The Young Bucks dropped the AEW Tag Team titles to Private Party on Fright Night Dynamite this Wednesday. Nick Jackson worked the match despite having a separated shoulder that's been bothering him for weeks. Dave Meltzer notes that the Young Bucks will be taking some time off from AEW programming before returning to feud with Jon Moxley's faction, which has been wreaking havoc in AEW. And on to our next story. Montez Ford believes he may need to make some changes in order to accomplish his goal of becoming WWE champion. Montez Ford recently spoke to the Daily Mail about how his dream job in WWE can be frustrating. As he has also mentioned in previous interviews, Montez is growing impatient with the Street Profits' lack of success of late. To which he said, "I'm not going to lie and say I don't sit here and watch all the comments and everything. I watch everything. We're not in conversation when it comes to top tag teams. We're not in conversations when it comes to anything wrestling related besides the fact of getting handled by the bloodline, and that doesn't sit well with me. So as well as it is going in terms of being my dream job, it is enjoying as it is frustrating." The Street Profits were paired with B-Fab and Bobby Lashley as the Pride in 2023. The group was quietly disbanded when Bobby Lashley left the company earlier this year. Montez Ford says the experience taught him that anything can happen, anyone can leave, and you have to pick up the pieces afterward. To which he said, "I'm glad with what we had for the short period of time. B-Fab and the Almighty when he was here. But what I took from that lesson is anything can happen, anything can transition, anybody can leave, anybody can just depart at any time, and you kind of just have to pick up whatever's left and just run with it. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Montez Ford did mention that when this whole angle was happening with the Pride, he was very excited to work with Bobby Lashley because he was somebody that he looked up to and watched as a kid. He said, all of these things are running, we have a WrestleMania win, and then boom, it just stops. And it's been this constant stop and go and stop and go and stop and go with the Profits, where we'll get momentum and then the momentum will stop. Then the momentum will start again and the momentum will stop. And for us, that's frustrating because it's hard to get behind a team whose momentum starts and then shifts again. It has been almost 4 years since the Street Profits have held Tag Team Gold. They haven't been Tag Team Champions since dropping the SmackDown Tag Team titles to Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode on January 8th, 2021 inside WWE's Thunderdome. Montez Ford said, "This is the crossroads that I'm at right now in life. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a WWE champion. Now I've got the dream job I wanted, been with this tag team and it's been fantastic, but I've also made a lot of changes and adjustments to try and be successful with this tag team. And I'm now at a point where I've done everything to be successful. I've tried to do something for a long time and there's still no success. I'm looking at the universe, I'm looking at the signs. Is it time to adjust to a new era, a new mode, a new mindset, or do I need to start getting rid of people?" On to our next story. In the 2023 WWE Draft, former NXT North American Champion Trevor Lee, also known as Cameron Grimes, received his initial call-up to WWE's main roster, specifically to the SmackDown brand. He begun his main roster run, quickly scoring wins over the likes of Baron Corbin and Ashanti the Adonis, and even competing in an invitational for the United States Championship. However, as the months passed though, his SmackDown appearances became less and less as he was primarily slotted for dark matches and untelevised WWE live events. I recently did an interview with Trevor Lee in which he opened up about his experience on WWE SmackDown, which ended with his release from the company in April 2024. In the interview, he talks about how the early months of his main roster run came in the midst of a somewhat blurry backstage environment. Take a look at what Trevor Lee had to say about his time on the main roster. I feel like during that time, a lot of people had been like sort of anticipating like, hey, when is Cameron Grimes going to go to the main roster? When is he going to go? And then it finally happens and you're like, yes, it's finally happening. So you go to SmackDown and, things, they work out very differently, right? I think a lot of people were expecting you to go right in there, have some sort of story, because I think that's everybody's idea, is that if someone gets drafted, it's because there's a plan set in motion. Like it feels like there's a reason, a purpose for that person to get drafted. And you were in matches here sporadically here and there, and then, unfortunately released. So I do want to talk about that period when you're in SmackDown and you're sort of, I'm assuming, waiting for some creative, waiting for something to really get going. What was going on behind the scenes? What did you know? What didn't you know about your status on SmackDown?
Right. So, at the very beginning when I got drafted there was still kind of a power struggle happening. Vince was gone, but he wasn't gone. And Hunter was in charge, but he wasn't fully in charge. So what I would know is that like I would be on the script and then it would go to Vince and he would change the script. And I don't think he really liked NXT guys, right? So the changes that would always happen would be me being taken off the show. So, that happened for, a couple months until finally, Vince was completely gone. And now Hunter was in charge. And then it became now how do we reintroduce this guy who hasn't been on TV for a few months and hasn't really done much? How do we reintroduce him back into a show that is so hot at the moment? If you look at that time period, we were building to WrestleMania. I can't even think of the number, but the WrestleMania where Sammy and Kevin wrestled the
39.
Usos. Right. So like we're building to all this huge stuff and this huge, like we're getting into the massive bloodline angle, and we're on a 2-hour show. So when there's an hour promoting the hottest angle in the company, you know what I mean? Like, and then you got to get also, you got to get the females on the show. You got to get the other stars on the show. So it's hard to get that spot when you're trying to figure out like, well, what do we do? So I would, I pitched a bunch of different ideas because it just drove me crazy, honestly. And a lot of people you'll hear throughout like the business, like, oh, you're getting paid, don't you just shut up? But like, that's not what I fell in love with. Like, I wanted to wrestle, so I would annoy the hell out of the writers and just, you know, try to pitch ideas and try to like figure something out. And you know, they have a very stressful job as well. The writers trying to figure out everything and write everything. They're getting it from every direction. So, you know, it doesn't help when I'm asking to work every single week, right? So it was just hard. It's very hard, and it should be. It's WWE. It's the top of the top. It's, you know what I mean, the best of the best. And when you're fighting for a 2-hour time slot, like you have to get those spots, and when you get them, you got to take full advantage of them. And I don't think that I fully took advantage of maybe the moments that I could have taken advantage of. But you know what I mean, that's something that ultimately helps the story as well. And now we live in the age where everything is on the internet. Everything can be seen. So if someone leaves, you can still follow that person's story, right? So I'm taking this now as like, hopefully it's building my story and helping that, like I said at the beginning, like my true babyface story, to where if I get that moment again, you know, I take full advantage of it and people really appreciate it.
So, you know, clearly, you, like I said, the goal is to go to the main roster, and the reason for that is if you want to have your big WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, all of those big moments are going to come from being on the main roster. Like, you sign up to be a WWE superstar because those are the end goals. Those are the things you want to do. So when you're not on television, you know that's, you know, getting further and further. So obviously you know, saying that it drove you crazy, I 100% get it, because the point is you want to be somebody on the show. And so when you're pitching these ideas and then you're getting taken off of the card, all of that, what is being said to you? Are there any like reassuring words? I know it's kind of silly to say reassuring words, but what's being said to you?
Yeah, I've always had kind of reassuring words, and like I try to be very humble when I do these interviews and when I talk to everyone. But all the best wrestlers in the world know how good I am, and that helps carry on, right? Like when I have those feelings of like, well, I haven't been used in a year, right? And like maybe I'm not as good as I could be. And then I have the best wrestlers in the world telling me, man, you're really good, and we know you're good. We just wish you could get the chance. Like that helps keep me going, right? So I was getting all the reassuring stuff from everyone, from Hunter, from everyone, and they're telling me like they know how good I am, but it's just trying to find that spot, right? Trying to find that moment. And when you're a business that is whatever multi-billion-dollar conglomeration, right? Like you have to make those things where when it comes time to show the all the spreadsheets and stuff of all the budgets and stuff, like you have to make those cuts. And when I have 9 matches in 2 years, you have to, you know what I mean? You have to consolidate that. So like I understood that, and having the stock gimmick helped teach me that, helped kind of teach me like how business really works. So like I was aware that it was going to happen, but like I said, everyone was telling me that I was okay and that I was good and I'd be fine. And they were right. I do believe that I'm going to be okay and I'm going to be fine. And I do believe that I will be back in WWE. Because like if you see now, like all of our top talents, they're in their mid-40s, and, you know, to be honest, right? And I'm talking to you today at 31 years old. I've been doing this now going into my 17th year as a professional wrestler. And in the past couple of years, I've been extremely healthy, right? Because I haven't been working, right? So I've used that time to get my body better, continue to stay healthy, so that in 15 years, if it takes 15 years to get that opportunity, my body and mind and everything will be ready for that.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Latest. As always, thank you so much for watching, and please do not forget to click that subscribe button.
Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful.